5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back to another edition of the B Bonos podcast. This is your host, Brian Bullock, and with me today for the Super Bowl prop edition is Mucked Nuts. Welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Nuts.
Thank you for having me. I can't believe it's been 4 years since the last time I was on here. I don't think anything's happened in the world since then, right?
No, nothing that I'm aware of.
All right.
Kind of, yeah.
Let's just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, let's do it. We don't need to do the formal introduction. We've already done that in the past, so we'll just kind of pick off where we left off. And that's kind of where the notes of the outline here have it. And I know that the last time you were on, I think it was right after you had won the first Golden Nugget contest in 2016, 2017. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it was the 2016 season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since then, you've had a little good luck as well since then in that contest, and I don't know if any others, but
well, the high point was definitely the 16 season. I was fortunate enough to win it again the next year, but they flattened the payout structure a little bit, and so the payout for the top few was less than the year before, and then that's really the only contest that I can actually seem to do well in. I've been fortunate enough to cash in 4 years in a row, and then this year they made the decision not to have the contest due to the all the questions surrounding how the college football season was going to look this year, and it was probably the right decision to make at the time. And looking back on the season, is definitely the right decision to make, since every week there were dozens of games that were postponed or canceled, and it just would have been an absolute mess to have a college-centric contest, with that kind of uncertainty on whether games would be played or not.
Sure. I don't even know who would be a bigger pain in the ass for the people trying to make the picks or the people running for those picks. It would be.
Yeah, it would be horrible. Yeah, it would be horrible for everybody. The players would get frustrated because depending on how they would set their rules for it, you're either getting a 0 or half a point for that week. And
sure.
And this is one of those contests that, in any contest you really have to run up the score, but the Golden Nugget one in particular, because we're making in the past we made 7 picks per week, and you have like 100 different choices each week because NFL is also included.
Okay.
So if half the games on your card are cancellations, that would be a total train wreck for everyone. So I think they made the right move not holding the contest this year, because I'm sure there would have been tremendous blowback regardless of how they were going to structure it with college games.
Sure, and you bring up a point about like it was probably a good idea, and I've heard of people this year skipping like even their fantasy football seasons just because of the uncertainty of week to week. And there was a part of me that, being a commissioner of 2 fantasy football leagues, makes me wish I would have maybe thought of that, even though I really like to do fantasy football, but like just having to invent like new rules or like rules on the fly, like this is how we're going to handle certain situations like this. Like, it's easier for me to do than say like a contest that's like, involves thousands of people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I only do one fantasy football, like full season fantasy football league each year. And I think we just had like one minor situation scheduling that came up. And I think it was the week the Steelers and the Ravens played on a Wednesday, I want to say. And there were questions about, which week that, the scoring for those players would be counted towards. And I think everyone agreed pretty quickly that it should be for, the original scheduled week, which that was the week after Thanksgiving, I think. So that would, that ended up counting as like the Thanksgiving week of games.
Yeah. And
it was
it wasn't a fun year for that. So like, I'm looking forward to some sense of normalcy where we won't have to worry about, you know, I know people like variance with, in gambling, like some of the best bettors like variance, but like not knowing whether a game's going to be played or not is not a fun thing to weigh in.
Well, betting those games individually, it's more just frustrating because I'd have, stack of tickets or, I guess if I'm, playing them offshore, just, a lot of games that I bet and, half of them get canceled and, it was a little frustrating from that standpoint, but it was no loss to me really. Right. Yeah. I mean, I get the wager back and, move on to the next thing. But yeah, it's still, still kind of annoying when, you've made X number of bets and like 30% of them are canceled. So
sure.
But it's just the way it was. And, like you said, hopefully we get back to something that's more normal next season.
Yeah. So before we go on to the Super Bowl props, though, one other thing that's changed, at least around us, has been the expansion of sports betting. Both in, I don't remember when Indiana instituted it. I know that they were before us, but the fact that we can, bet in our state with, with books that are, licensed with the state, is a different thing. So in terms of like, I guess this time of the year would probably be a good time to, weigh the pros and cons of it. Have you found it any easier or harder getting money down with the expansion of betting around us?
Well, it's easier in a sense that there are more places to play now. So you can add the regulated Illinois and Indiana books, to the list of places you're playing, include like post ups offshore and your Vinny accounts and all that. So yeah, just with more places to play, you can get more down. However, the books that operate in Illinois and Indiana aren't exactly catering towards sharp action, and you have to kind of be a little creative with getting money down at some of these places. So you've probably seen screenshots online, people saying like I have a $1 limit at BetMGM or my $40 full game NBA side at Bet Rivers got sent to approval and they approved $9 of it, rejected the other 31. So betting online at most of these places, it's you're not going to go out down, but if you actually go into some of these places and bet in person, they're a little more lenient.
Okay.
Now, if you hang out all day at like one of the Canby kiosks at like Ameristar East Chicago or Rivers in Des Plaines, that might raise a few eyebrows. But if you're kind of aware of some of the pitfalls of doing that, you can get in there and get out and get your bets in and get cashed out without too much hassle. At least I haven't had any big issues.
Okay.
I guess one of the big differences between betting in person here and in Nevada is, granted, it's new here, so the ticket writers, people working the counters are much more inexperienced than the folks in Nevada. But the amount of time it takes to cash tickets out at some of these places is truly astounding, because not only first of all, the casinos around here weren't built with having a sports book in mind. So they've had to convert other areas of the casino into kind of makeshift sports books. And so some of them are really small. They only have a couple windows. And so you have people in line putting in their $5 20 team parlays, and they're looking over the sheet while they're doing it, and standing up there for 20, 30 minutes. And now, finally it's your turn to cash out. And, it's a big deal. They scan each ticket twice. And then if you're cashing out, some places, not every place like this, but some places, if you're cashing out over $10,000, you have to take your mask off and smile for the eye in the sky. And, it's like this whole ordeal. Whereas, in Nevada, you present the tickets, they scan them, they count the money out, and like you're done, right? Just a couple minutes. So just the length of time to do administrative work is kind of rough at some places. There's one place, the Horseshoe Hammond, actually is pretty good about it, and that's a Caesars property, and they seem to get their people trained pretty well, pretty quickly, and they have a much larger counter space than some of the other books in the area.
Yeah, I went to that one last year. We were meeting my wife's mom there, and I noticed that they had a lot of kiosks there. So like with the kiosks, you I'm guessing you're limited. I think I remember you're limited to lesser bets through the kiosk than in person, I think, right?
Yeah, at Horseshoe Hammond, I think the kiosk limit is 1,000, but at the window, you can get some bets down at the window. I think they were they were taking they were taking like 5K a side on college football early in the week, Monday, Tuesday. So that's the best or highest limit for early week college football in the area, as far as I'm aware. The Canby books, which are Bet Rivers and the Barstool Sportsbook at Ameristar. When I've bet at the window, I have the same limits at the window as I do at the kiosk, and it varies widely based on the sport type of bet. And it's Canby's a Swedish company, so everything is converted from euros into dollars. So your limit on something could be like $2,842.61 or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's if you're creative with how you're getting action down, you can get action down on the kiosks. You just have to kind of be thoughtful about how you want to do it.
Yeah, and I was the one time I went to the one at the Horseshoe, the live betting was like almost nearly impossible, just because like I felt like anytime I was about to lock in a line, like it would change the other way, and then like it would just repeat itself. So I just finally gave up on trying to bet something live and ended up betting like a first half line or something like that. So I don't know if live betting will get better with with these places. I'm sure they're still trying to figure some of this stuff out, and I know live betting has always been kind of a thorn in the side of a lot of places. So
yeah, I mean it's tough for both sides, I think, with live betting, especially if you're not on a commercial break or a end of quarter type situation.
Yeah.
And when you're watching the game there, you're already on a delay to what their price feed is getting. So I think I feel like it'd be almost impossible to do like live betting in person at the counter. But that's not really a game I play.
Yeah, no, it seems better. You seem better. It seems better off to just lock them in ahead of time. Like if you're going to go to those places, if you want to use your online books, those are probably the best ways to do the live betting. If I had to guess, based on my limited experience. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the other thing too with I'll just say real quickly, the other thing too, if you're live betting while the action is ongoing, a lot of these places, like you'll submit your bet and you're going to be delayed. They're going to delay 10, 15 seconds before your bet is approved or rejected. And that, that also allows them time to see what unfolds in the game while you're being delayed. And, if it's something that is positive for the bet you're trying to make, right, they can just reject it and say, no, the line moved. And if it's something negative for your bet, oh, okay, like the price is worse now. So we're going to accept the bet. So there are just a lot of pitfalls with it. But I mean, it is beatable. Right. Just like with anything, you just need to sort of be thoughtful with how you go about it.
Sure. Okay, so let's go into the Super Bowl props. Now, we had you on about 4 years ago. I'm trying to remember without looking. Was that the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl? Or
I think it was that Super Bowl.
I'm trying to remember without looking it up. I know we have.
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to not look it up either, even though I have 3 computers around me and I'm too lazy to type it in. But I'm pretty sure you're right.
It's just sometimes it's nice not to look something up and just rely on your memory for remembering certain things.
Yeah, as long as the memory is correct, which we think it is in this case.
Yeah. So the last time we had you on was on the eve of that game, and Brady's still going strong, and he's he's in the other conference now, playing against a guy he played against a couple years ago in the AFC title game, and I'm looking forward to it. I've only bet I tend to do like these prop sheets with my friends where like I'll come up with like a list of 17 or 19 different props, and we'll just take turns picking our yes or no, or over unders. And so that's the extent of my betting. So I don't really know a lot of the current lines. So I know you've done those blog posts where you would dissect the props, and a lot of it was just in good fun. But I know that you do throw a lot of money on these or some of these props. So as far as the props for this year goes, do you think you've like bet most of what you're already like gonna bet, or is there still like some fishing that you're still doing for edges? Like I'm sure it doesn't stop, but do you think you've got most of your bets in already?
Yeah. Yes, I would say based on how I've operated historically with Super Bowl props, I've probably got about 70 to 80% down of what I'll get down for the game. And generally in the past and this year too, I find that I get most of my bets down early on, like right when books start posting them. That's when I start kind of scouring, all the prop sheets and seeing what everybody's offering. Seeing the different prices at different books and different wordings of props, and I try to attack them early because everyone else is trying to attack them early too, and there's just such a great volume of props that it's difficult for sports books to be very accurate on all of them, right? Sure. If you're writing 300, 400 props, there are going to be mistakes that are made. And, one of the advantages the bettor has is you don't have to bet all the props. You can choose which ones you want. And, one of the disadvantages that the house has is that they have to book the action on everything that they post.
Sure.
Unless you're like William Hill, which I guess, they can reject whatever they want. But, so yeah, I would say, the first few days, very exciting. I love looking at all the different props that come up. And then generally by now, a couple of days before the game, I'm just totally sick of looking at it and looking at the same bets over and over again. And there's so many of them. And Like it just like the repetition and the monotony just kind of wears you down after a while. And then on game day, I typically will do, the final 20-25% of my prop betting. Or
Okay.
the prices change at a lot of places, and there's a big influx of action typically, and so I'll look to to find value, of course, there. And also, if I find that my overall prop portfolio of bets is too correlated in some way, where I have an outsized correlation risk of my portfolio that I'm not comfortable with, then I'll look to put on bets that are kind of more negatively correlated, but not at too much of a disadvantage. Ideally at an advantage, or neutral advantage, just to sort of try to take some of the correlation risk out of my prop portfolio. But the last 2 years, I've always kind of kept that in mind from the beginning, where I don't want to have I don't want to bet the over on every receiver's receiving yards, or I don't want to, you don't want to bet on every player scoring a touchdown.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of ways you can, quote unquote, hedge your overall Super Bowl portfolio. I bet under 57.5 for the game when they first posted the line, almost 2 weeks ago now. Or after the championship games 2 Sundays ago. And then as a quasi hedge against that, you can bet on over completions, over receptions. They're not perfectly correlated, but they are perfectly negatively correlated. But it does provide some portfolio protection, so to speak. So that's another thing I try to keep in mind, where I don't want to have this massive prop portfolio where I'm kind of leading the same way and everything.
Sure. Now, do you do all of this work yourself, or do you work with anyone? You don't actually, you don't. If you do, you don't have to mention names. But do you do this alone?
I do. Okay, so I analyze all the props alone and decide what to bet on alone.
Okay.
I have a number of people who help me to get money down in different jurisdictions.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess that's probably the best way to put it. So I mean, everything that I risk on these, it's 100% of my capital, but
okay.
I do have help in deploying it.
Okay. Now does that, no, you say outside of jurisdiction, are you talking about books that you don't have access to, or books you've been banned by?
Both. Yeah.
Both. Okay. Okay. So as far as you were mentioning earlier that you were headed to Indiana for some of your prop betting. Have you found that the books around us have been have had props, a sizable amount of props for you to make it worth your time to actually go to these places?
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed with the menus, the prop menus
okay.
at most of these books. Now some of these places I'm severely limited on props, like FanDuel, for instance. I started going through theirs and tried to put a bet in and said, okay, well, the limit on this is $100. And say, okay, well, I'm not going to spend 4 hours going through all their props for $100 limits. And their closest physical sports book, I think, is in Michigan City, Indiana, which, I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that's that's kind of close to the Indiana Michigan border. It's a bit of a drive, and that's not necessarily I mean, I would need to find a lot to do to have a reason to go all the way out there to bet with them. But there are two Canby books close by. Their prop menu is a little smaller than some of the other ones, but still have a good number of choices. And then in Las Vegas too. I mean, you have Circa and Westgate and South Point and MGM and William Hill all have enormous prop menus, and Circa actually takes bets on these. They take 5K at the window, 3K on the app on Super Bowl props. I mean, that's as good as you'll find anywhere. I mean, I think Pinnacle's limits now are only 1,000. And
okay.
Remember last year they were like 2 or 3. So I don't know if they're going to increase them this weekend or if 1,000 is just going to be what they stay at. But I think for something like Super Bowl props, it's one of the few markets where betting like the regulated books in the United States is better than offshore.
Okay.
So that's where I kind of target most of my time. I do bet a lot of props offshore too, but I do spend kind of outsized percentage at the regulated places for Super Bowl props.
Okay. Now, have you found that like the rake is any higher, the vig is any higher at these like Illinois, Indiana books compared to like offshores or Vegas?
For the props?
Yeah.
No, because there's a lot of the line sets are kind of standard across the country. So for instance, the William Hill lines are the same in Illinois as they are in Nevada.
Okay.
And they deal -110 a side on props. The Canby props are -112 a side. Let's see, I think that MGM, I didn't really do much with them. I think they're -115 a side. But yeah, I mean, the pricing is pretty competitive.
Okay.
With the for the regulated books here, and then the books in Vegas, like Westgate and Circa are -110 a side on all their props. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think they do they do a good job with it.
Okay, yeah, because I know that like with I don't know if it was like the early days of FanDuel or DraftKings when they became a book where like the like, and I guess I'm not even thinking of props, but just their regular lines were just like so terrible, like in terms of like the vig that like it made no sense to like if you had half a brain, it made no sense to deposit money into those places knowing that like the increased percentage that you have to get right to even profit from there.
Yeah, so there were like DraftKings / Canby can be kind of annoying with vig on certain things. So like right now, I'm looking at the screen right now for the like the Raptors Nets game tonight. They have a total of 239.5. Draft for the over DraftKings is -112. If you want to bet the under, it's -109. It's like you can't just make it -108.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's not like extortionate or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those like weird quirks with them. Actually, now that I look at it, all their NBA totals are like -112, -109, and it's not like a huge deal, but it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of silly. I think just
it would be annoying. It's a nuisance.
It's a nuisance. They're bringing like they brought like their European product into the U.S. and it's not exactly like putting a square peg in a round hole, but it's it's different-ish from what you would be used to, like going into a Las Vegas sports book and seeing and the experience, the betting experience. Although now a lot of these Vegas sports books are just kind of kicking people off the app, so I guess from that standpoint, the experience is pretty similar. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling on now. So
no, that's all right.
Get back on track.
No problem. So before we actually get into some of your favorite props, with the expansion of sports betting, do you ever see a situation where you might not need to go to Vegas like at all, or like do you still find, whether it be for personal reasons or financial reasons to still go there, even if like we get more books around us?
Well, I mean, you don't really need to go to Vegas to sports bet, and you haven't for a few
Yeah,
years now. I think
sure.
I mean, I do go from time to time. I was unable to go during football season this year. Usually like to do 1 or 2 weekends out there during football season. Um, Unfortunately, not this year, but yeah, I mean, there's been so much consolidation out there with the sports books. William Hill and BetMGM own basically the entire strip now outside, and I guess Wynn still has a sports book, and Westgate. I mean, Westgate's gotten really aggressive, limiting people on the app. South Point used to be very welcoming of sharp action. They would take bets, and now they're backing people off at the counter. So you don't really have a ton of places to play, and it's just Circa, which I love what they're doing, and I hope that they can be operating in Illinois soon, or at least Indiana. But yeah, I mean, to go, there's not a need to go there. I like going there. I have friends there. I like to see when I go there, and
Sure.
I like going there when it's winter here because it's like 60 degrees there and very pleasant, and I can escape, for a few days of 20-degree weather. But for betting, I don't. The only need really I have to go out there is to sign up for the contest.
Sure.
So
okay.
But yeah, I mean, I do like going there. There's always stuff to do there. You can always find good value, but yeah, I mean, for a place that you need to be, certainly not.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I haven't been to Vegas, I don't think, since my buddy's bachelor party in 2014. So it's been almost 7 years since I've gone. So I'm missing it a little bit. That used to be my like sanctuary of just degeneracy.
Sanctuary of debauchery and degeneracy.
Yeah, like I don't bet much. I was I'm the guy at the book who's probably rooting to being obnoxious over like a $50 bet, or $100 bet. Nothing like the people around me are probably betting, but I miss it.
No, in the sports book, it's mostly people betting small. The people, in my experience, the people who react the most are the people who have the least amount of gross dollars at risk.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a sight to behold sometimes. Like the reaction to some of these people, it's like, dude, it's a $25 bet you have. They tend to be like cursing at the screen.
I remember right around the time where I started my Twitter account in 2011, I was in Vegas for the NBA finals between the Mavs and the Heat. And I made this, bet on Jason Kidd or Mike Bibby to score the first basket of the game. And I don't remember what order it happened. Like Kidd missed a layup and then Bibby hit a shot, or Bibby missed a layup and then Kidd hit a shot. Like I just remember like geeking out, and it was just a $10 bet. Like these fucking idiots are like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, I mean, obviously they didn't know how much I bet on it, but it was, it was just like $10. But I kind of see your point now of like, there's like some kind of like curve in terms of how much you bet versus how much you root for it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, winning is fun too, and you're in kind of like a hyped up environment, and there's a lot of energy and emotion that runs through the room, and I think people kind of feed off of that as well, and probably a lot of alcohol being consumed too.
Oh yeah.
So you have all those factors that play in.
Yeah, back in the day at the Bellagio, when I didn't need the drink tickets, where they would actually come around and, you just tip them a couple bucks a drink and make sure they keep coming back. But I don't think those days exist anymore from what I understand, from what I have heard of the.
Yeah, but places are pretty good about giving out drink tickets. I mean, if you tip the ticket writers a little bit, they'll keep the tickets coming your way. So
Okay. Well, I try to do that. It's good. It's a good, even, just for karma vibes. I don't know, whatever. Okay. So let's go into the game itself. We've kind of buried the lead here, but in terms of the game itself, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, because I don't know, you might give away some of your edges, or maybe those edges don't really exist anymore. So I don't know if they would even be useful to people. But what are some of the props, either your standard props or like halftime or whatever that you've found favorable so far this year?
Well, I've bet a lot of props, and
Okay.
I haven't counted them all. I mean, it's into the hundreds of different props. So we'll go through them one by one. No, I'm just kidding. I'll start with some of my favorite props from like a humorous standpoint. Okay. So I kind of started going through the novelty props yesterday, and there's one posted on Twitter, which was the sorry, I'm very unprepared here. Where is that one? I want to make sure that I read it correctly. Okay, it says, will any player slap Sarah Thomas on the butt? Sarah Thomas is the female official who will be working the Super Bowl. And Bet Online posted this one. And I mean, as soon as I just started laughing. It's like, it's a truly ridiculous bet. And, the yes on that is 16-1, which, I mean, it should be like 16,000 to 1. Because and then, I'm picturing in my mind, somebody like a player getting up off the ground and just like slapping her, and how absurd that would be. And it it'd be something out of like a Keel and Peele sketch, like Hingle McCringleberry, getting a flag for slapping the official on the butt. Right. So, I mean, I can't believe they actually offered that. I think there's tremendous value on no at minus 10,000. I think the limit is, let's see here. I lost that one. There are a few Sarah Thomas props.
There's multiple ones. Jeez.
Yeah, you can bet to win $50. If you're willing to risk $5,000 to win $50. I mean, I'm not saying you should make that bet. I'm probably not going to, unless I just have like balance left in my account on Sunday.
Okay.
But just like how utterly insane that would be for a player to do that at the Super Bowl.
And like sorry to stop you, but like I know that there's this perception, I think, with people when it comes to like negative lines that reach like a certain point where people think that there's like no value in them. But like, if there's an edge, even, if you think that the chances are like 0% or like 0.0001%, like, and it's not priced that way, then, I could see why somebody would make that bet. Like
yeah, definitely. I mean, and that, that goes for a lot of Super Bowl props too, not just, a silly one like that.
Sure.
Where, people like to bet on things happening, and they like to bet on things happening at plus odds. So a lot of times you can get, some really good value at minus odds. So, one of the most famous ones over the last few years is betting on whether it's going to be a safety or not. And, no at minus 800 is pretty good value. And of course, I forgot what the streak was. There were like 3 safeties in 5 years, a few years back. So, of course, that blew everybody up on those for a number of years. But yeah, I mean, I bet a lot of maybe not a lot, but like a number of, negative, highly, okay, how do I bet a lot of like negative, like high negative money lines, right? So like
Sure.
for one, I bet on, Sorensen not having an interception minus 550.
Sure.
I bet on, let's see, this one's actually a really good value, but first score touchdown at minus 160, that should be like, minus 175, minus 180. Another, I don't know if this ARB still exists out there, and I don't necessarily want to say where it is located either, but another bet I have is Hardman touchdown. I bet no at minus 265 and yes at plus 370, and that's like a decent size argument. I think both sides have value there. So, that's not, arbing props is typically not something that I'll do. I'll just, bet the side I think has value. But, in an instance like that where there's like such a price disagreement between two different books, I'm happy to take both sides of that. Yeah, I mean, it's another thing. If you're willing to bridge jump, there can be a lot of value in taking, props at certain things happening at big negative odds, and yeah, occasionally they lose, and it sucks when they lose, right? Yeah. If you're betting $16,000 to win two on their not being safety, and there is, that it stings, and you got to win a number of prop bets, at that same level to make up that loss. But yeah, I mean, over time, like those are good bets.
True. Yeah. You don't want to be on the wrong side of like Darren Ravel tweet,
Well, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, because he tweets about people who are able to bet $3 million on the DraftKings website, and I think I'd be lucky to get $1,000 down on the Super Bowl side. So I'll be a Ravel afterthought. So
that's good. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably good to be an afterthought of his, anyways. But I digress. Okay, so were there any other humorous ones or other edges that you were able to get? Like, if you're willing to discuss any other ones.
Yeah, like some of these others were. Yeah, let me see what I want to talk about here.
Or if you're or if honestly, we could address some of the questions too. I don't know if if you had any.
Sure. Yeah, we could. Yeah, because I think some of the questions were kind of prop related, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll go with the anthem one, anthem or halftime song. Do you ever bet those?
Generally, no.
Okay.
I have in the past. I haven't yet this year. I've just been kind of so focused on the game props that the novelty props have just kind of become an afterthought. And that's mostly because I don't have access to accounts where they take a lot of money on novelty props. So
okay.
I'm gonna just kind of push those to the back burner until probably until it's too late and all the value's been bet out of them anyway. But
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just for my time, it can be kind of targeted in better ways. But I mean, if I did have an account that that took, I saw a screenshot posted a few years ago. I forgot who posted it, but it was a Vinny book that was taking like to win 25,000 on the national anthem. I mean, if I had something like that, yeah, I'm going to be watching every single YouTube video possible and like trying to come at it from every angle. But no, I don't. I don't have it. So that's
Makes
where
sense.
I am with that. And
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of weigh your, like, is
The
it
opportunity cost, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I missing out on all these great props somewhere else where I get way more down? Where I'm spending like 5 hours, watching the weekend music videos or whatever. I mean, I guess I could do both. I have enough screens.
You could.
Do it, but
so yeah, so you don't, so no action on that, at least at this point. So that
not
so,
at this point. If I do something, I guess I'll tweet about it if I do something on that.
Okay.
But yeah, as of right now, no.
Okay, and yeah, and that, to give credit to the question, that was from Mark, M.A. Hill, on Twitter. So, was there anything else prop related that you wanted to touch base on before we go on to the next topic?
I would just say, so many places have such big prop menus. Just if you want to have action on the game and not and bet at either like a very slight disadvantage or at an advantage, ideally, you can just shop around, and it takes time to look through all these menus, but a lot of these books host a lot of the same props, and some of them are priced a lot differently. And if you wanted to just arb Super Bowl props, or a few instances where you'd be able to do that, or at least just find the best number for what you want to bet. And if you're able to do that, you're probably not going to be too bad off. So I would just say, utilize as wide of a net as you can to try to get value in the Super Bowl props.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Okay, so I had this as a passing reference in the last podcast I did with Horse on the Shore, and I didn't feel qualified. I still don't feel qualified, like being the someone who could discuss it intelligently, but being like you're having your background, with in the financial sector, if you will. I figured you might be better to discuss this GameStop stuff, because I guess it kind of ties back to gambling a little bit here. So like in terms of the everything that happened last week with the GameStop stuff, kind of like a book for dummies sort of explanation of things. Like someone with your background would know more about this than most people I know. If you could explain the events of last week as it relates to the GameStop stock, and like how everything was handled in the aftermath.
Okay, sure. So the basic, trying to keep it as basic as possible. So
sure.
GameStop had an enormous short interest on it. So short interest is how many shares are being held short by market participants. And the biggest, or the most well-known one now, is Melvin Capital, the hedge fund. And so they had a huge short position, just figuring, company's going to go bankrupt and we'll never have to cover this. So, and if you never cover a short position, like you never realize the gains, you don't have to pay taxes on it. Now, the problem with being short, there are a number of difficulties with being short, but one of them is you can have unlimited losses because the stock or whatever financial tool you're short can increase in price forever, and at some point you're going to cry uncle and you're going to need to get out. And so this is kind of what happened with them. They had an oversized short position in GameStop, and people, I guess, starting on Reddit, and it's not like a one-day thing where this happened. I mean, the price of GameStop had been slowly increasing for a few months now. Okay. And what happens is, more buyers come to the market, and it's heavy buying, the price is going to go up and up and up. And so if you're short, right, you're starting to lose money on your position. And if you get to the point where you can't take the risk anymore, you have to buy back your short position. And so that opened the floodgates of buying, because they had to get out of their position. So now there are more buyers being added to the flow. So, you have a stock that goes from, it went from like $5 up to 480 or so. And so this is something, short squeezes happen a lot in the financial markets. The reason why this one got, so much publicity was just because of, the incredible price inflation that happened. And then also like kind of how it happened, with like the Reddit backstory, where you basically like have, these guys and girls on Reddit who have just decided, hey, we're just going to buy whatever GameStop we can. And, we want to punish the hedge fund or whatever, which, is incredibly horrible reasoning for buying stock. But, people aren't rational. And so that's what happened. So the price got pushed up, and, now Melvin Capital is feeling the squeeze, right? So they can't hold the position, and they need to buy back. They need to buy back their short shares, and that pushes the price up even higher. And then once they're out, then that alleviates a tremendous amount of buying pressure. And now, anybody who's long the stock has, kind of like this garbage stock at an incredibly inflated price. And then it's, kind of a rush to the exit. Like, you got to get out and lock in your gains. And then now there's a mad rush of selling, and, it's going to go back to where it was. I think stock today, I think it was up a little today, is like $100 now.
Okay.
Do a quick look. No, $63. So it did go down, into the 50s or so 63. I mean, it's going to go back down to 10, and this is something that happens a lot in the commodities markets, but never to like this extreme. So like heating oil, this happens in heating oil and like the grains, and something like silver, palladium.
Okay.
Where, if you're one of the, if you are skilled enough to be able to tell when like a market is sort of off sides and be able to exploit that, you can have a tremendous amount of success trading. And it's a difficult thing to do. And that's kind of what happened here, where with GameStop is that, somebody's realized that there's a tremendous short interest position, and this is all public information. You can just look up what the short interest is on any stock that's publicly traded. And a buying frenzy was kind of created on Reddit, and everyone just kind of got into it, and that's they blew Melvin's position out, and it was horrible risk management by Melvin Capital. When you have a position on that you can take an unlimited loss on, I mean, you really need to, try to game plan for every scenario that could lead to that happening. And I guarantee you, nobody there game plan for, a bunch of clowns on Reddit just buying the position that they happen to be like incredibly short of. So, I mean, that's essentially, basically what happened.
Now, do you think they'll reassess their process when they do that in the future?
When they short stocks in the future?
Yeah.
I hope so, for their sake. I would assume so. But again, it's other people's money that they have. So, when you're trading other people's money, it's a different game than when you're trading your own.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you're at a hedge fund, you have a performance fee, and then you have just like the capital. You take like 2% of the capital off the top. So, it's no risk really for you other than future, career implications if you blow up. But even then, a lot of guys get back on their feet, and they're great fundraisers. And, that's kind of what the game is about, is bringing money into your fund, not necessarily having the best performance. So, it's like an individual trader, that is, like it's the risk management there is just mind-boggling, and they they should be excoriated for for that. So I mean, the little guys got to win, and if they were able to get out now, I read about people saying they're going to hold forever. Well, okay, I mean, you just bought it at 110, and now it's going right back to 10, and
it's
you can't be greedy with it. You still own like kind of a pile of crap, and you were given like a golden opportunity to get out of your pile of crap. You have to take it.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a window. I feel like most people realize that. I'm sure there's going to be some people that, like you said, hold on to it, but you just got to, like you said before, like time. If you could time this stuff out, you be doing yourself a lot of favors there. So one of the things that came out of that was Robinhood, which I'm not a stock guy, so I never heard of Robinhood before. Do you? It seemed like almost a unanimous thing. It seemed to bring like people from both. I hate to say political parties, but like it brought all of us poors together. The non 1% seemed to kind of like rally together against the way Robinhood handled it. Now, like, I know that it was probably irresponsible of people to like dump all this money into it, like especially at its highest point. But like, are you on the side of like people who say it's ridiculous? It was basically kind of like a gambling market that only offers like one side, where they were only able to sell it and not buy it anymore. So are you on that side of things, or do you think like they handled it properly?
Well, I'm generally going to be siding with. I'll almost always side with a trader over a broker,
okay.
Because brokers can be very difficult to deal with, and I'm a trader. So in this case, however, So what happened? So why they wouldn't allow any more buying is because Robinhood needed to meet the capital requirements for the clearinghouse. Okay, and they didn't. The clearinghouse mandated something like they needed to come with $3 billion in order to be allowed for them to be able to clear, more buys in GameStop, and Robinhood didn't have that cash on hand. So there was a period, I forgot what day it was last week, but there was, most of one day where there was sell only for AMC and GameStop, and there might have been a couple other ones on there too.
Okay.
So it's my understanding that they had to tap their credit lines at some big banks, and that's not going to happen instantaneously. And it did seem to happen, somewhat quickly, where they were able to get more capital to send to the clearinghouse to meet that requirement, so they could once again, allow trading. So I'm not trying to, say that Robinhood should be off the hook here, because they shouldn't be. They're a very like third-rate broker. I get the appeal of using it because there are no commissions. It's easy to, they have an app that's easy to use, and can trade from your phone, blah blah blah. But it's not a professional trading platform.
Okay.
And that's not to say that professional trading platforms are like the greatest things ever. Too. They go down to, they also will limit trading certain products.
Okay.
And they don't want that clearinghouse risk. And this happens in professional trading as well, where the broker or your clearer or the exchange will change the rules on you mid-game, and it sucks, and you have to adjust. But this is not just like something that's targeted. This is not a situation where they're like, oh, poor people are making money or whatever, we have to make it stop. That's definitely not what happens. It's just a situation where high volatility occurs, and like you can kind of get screwed by something that's out of your control. I got an example a few years ago. There was like a squeeze in the Swiss franc. I want to say I'm not a currency guy, but what did they do? Something occurred where there was an enormous move in the Swiss franc against the euro, and there were a lot of people who made money on the trade, but couldn't realize it because the move was so big it crushed some clearinghouses. And so if your clearer goes down, like your trades aren't good. And so, I wish I had thought of that earlier so I could kind of refresh my memory on what exactly happened there before the podcast. But that's an example where, there are going to be more kind of professional organizations operating as a percentage in that type of market than in GameStop.
Okay.
And so they there are a lot of ways you can like really get screwed in trading, and it happens to everybody.
Okay. So this might seem like a new phenomenon only because of how many people might have just gotten introduced to, the market recently, where they might not have that background like you do. That's kind of one reason why I wanted to bring it up with you, because I figured that you would have some historical perspective, because I think you've been in this industry pretty much since you got out of college, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I had a real job right after college for a couple of years.
Okay.
Decided that having a real job wasn't that much fun. So
yeah. So you've seen enough where this isn't like necessarily a new phenomenon. It's just the way it happened. That was
the way it happened. Yeah, because the move was so astronomical, and there were so many people involved. Just the fact that it was kind of these just like this conglomeration of guys on Reddit who were like really pimping it, and it's a great story, right? It's a great news story. It's engaging, it's entertaining. Whereas something like the Swiss franc being devalued or whatever it was, it's not something that's really going to get a lot of like public eyeballs on.
Yeah, it doesn't have
like
it doesn't have the sex appeal that
no, definitely not.
did.
Yeah.
No,
or like a short squeeze at heating oil. Like nobody, nobody outside of the financial world is really probably going to be too aware of that unless you actually buy heating oil for your house.
Sure. Okay, so let's see here. What other questions that I have? So did you participate in the GameStop stuff or GameStop stuff?
No, that's kind of not my.
That's not your
That's not my game. I was looking at it and trying to find a somewhat reasonable way to play it from the short side, and the options there are shorting the stock, but that has its own difficulties because you have to find shares to borrow. Okay, and then. So your broker has to find shares for you to borrow. You have to pay a fee to borrow the shares. The shares can get called back to the owner at any time. And then if you manage to make it over those three hurdles, then you also need the position to work. And you ideally need it to work very quickly so you're not paying the borrowing fee for too long. So that's one way that you could potentially do it. Another way is you could buy put options. Now, all the options were and are still very expensive because of the implied volatility. So, as soon as you buy the put option, the price of the underlying asset, which in this case is the GameStop stock, if it's not moving, like you're losing money fast because the clock's ticking down to expiration, and you're losing, the time value of the option. And then the other way you can do it is by selling call options, which, you're happy if nothing's moving, because then like you're short the call option. So you're gaining value as the time ticks down. But of course you can have unlimited losses that way too, if there's another ramp up in the price. So yeah, ultimately I didn't do anything on it. I'm kind of wishing I at least did something small, but it's not the end of the world. And I do kind of keep tabs on it from time to time. And but yeah, I mean, for a position like that, you would also, or at least I would only really be comfortable, kind of monitoring it throughout the entire trading day. And I don't know, I guess I determine the betting Super Bowl process more important than that. I don't know, maybe I left a lot of money on the table. Who knows? Probably.
It's hard to anticipate some of these things too. So I just take your best.
Yeah, and I just I try to operate in in the markets where I am most comfortable, which are bond markets. So that's sort of my bread and butter, and the only stocks I really trade are kind of like long-term investment stuff. And I've never done any sort of like short squeeze plays, although it is fascinating. it is fun to watch too.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to skip the last question here and go into the Chicago/Illinois discussion. We seem to have these discussions, every time we come on here, like
every 4 years now.
Yeah. And I was gonna pimp this out before, but I'm actually drinking out of a proper glassware here. I'm on my second Hot Butcher beer. I think this is the one you were.
Yeah, that's the one I'm drinking.
Up emits showers of sparks, and I'm on the one of the craft beers pages on Facebook, and this is Hot Butcher is always like one of the most popular ones that people post in terms of beers that they're getting, and I seem to be kind of a fanboy for them as well. And I don't know if it's I think a lot of it is to do with the beer, but I think they also market themselves pretty well. So I was going to get into the beer stuff in a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I pimped out my Hot Butcher glass here.
Did they buy advertising space on this episode?
They did not. So that's a problem. Yeah, this is a problem. I've tagged them on tweets of mine, and they apparently they're not aware of the Bebo Knows market. Shame.
It's a missed opportunity from their standpoint, for sure.
It is.
Well, maybe they'll figure it out one day.
Yeah. So I'm a big fanboy of them. But in terms of, I wanted to start with the biggest misconception that people might have of Chicago. I guess I'm thinking of Twitter, just because that's my main interaction with people who don't live in this area. Like Facebook is obviously a lot of friends and family who live in the area, but Twitter is like all around, basically all around the globe. So, I feel like with Chicago, people have this perception, of the deep dish pizza. I know a lot of the Seaville people will call it like lasagna or something like that. I've seen people making fun of it that way. And but I, in terms of the pizza, like I feel like most of us eat tavern pizza, like way more than we eat deep dish. I feel like deep dish is kind of the perception from a tourist perspective, because nobody says like, hey, let's go get thin crust pizza when we're in Chicago. they're always talking about going to Giordano's or Lou Malnati's or things like that. So like that's mine. Do you have a like a misconception that people have of Chicago when they mention it to you?
Yeah, people think it gets cold here in the winter. In reality, it's 75 degrees every day. I went for a swim in Lake Michigan this morning. It was very nice.
Okay.
No, I do agree with you on the pizza. I mean the Chicago tavern style pizza is for sure the superior style of Chicago pizza. Although I do like deep dish too. I just if I have 2 slices of deep dish, I'm out of commission for the entire weekend.
Yeah.
And that might be getting old now too. But
yeah, and
I
for me,
like
sorry, go ahead.
In my mid-20s, eating half of a large, stuffed pizza from Art of Pizza or something was never a problem. But now it's like 2 slices, and it's I can't move until Monday.
Yeah, and I think for me, part of it was is the underrated part is like the leftovers aspect, because I feel like I can, the tavern style, like I don't know, it just seems more versatile where I can eat it cold. I can eat it, if I feel like it, if I want to heat it up, I'll heat it up. Like, but a lot of them are at least to me are just as good cold. And I don't know if like, eating the deep dish, like, you'll usually have leftover pieces, especially if you're only ordering, if there's only like a couple people eating it, like you usually have like a slice or two left over. But I feel like the leftover aspect for me is one of the reasons why I like the tavern style better as well. Like, in addition to just tasting better to me, and that not filling me up as much, I like the leftover aspect. Um,
Yeah, I tend to have more leftovers with deep dish because I have kind of a problem when it comes to tavern cut, and the problem is
okay.
I can't stop eating it. So
Yeah,
I like that in sushi. I can just kind of eat forever. I
like a
feel like
bottomless pit. Yeah.
yeah, basically. But one actual misconception. I think that this misconception has been going away too of Chicago as kind of a like meat and potatoes kind of town, and now there are plenty of high end steakhouses where you can gorge yourself with porterhouse steaks and giant sides that could feed an army. But Chicago's great Asian food. Chicago's great Mexican food. I hear people say, "Oh, I would never eat Mexican food in the U.S. unless it's from a state that borders Mexico." I mean, that's garbage. Chicago has some of the best Mexican food, in the whole country. You need to kind of make the effort to travel to it. You need to get out of the Magnificent Mile area and the Loop and River North, and go to the neighborhoods and go to Chinatown, go to Koreatown. Like the Northwest suburbs is like a second Koreatown, and some of the best Korean food in the United States is in the Northwest suburbs, and then you have Pilsen on the south side, on the Southwest side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say explore it. And yeah, there's a lot of awesome Mexican food in Chicago. And I don't know, I love Mexican food. I think most people love Mexican food.
And I wish I was. I feel like I'm still kind of a picky eater, but I feel like my palate's expanded at least a little bit since I last lived in the city, and I do regret in my time in Logan Square not having as much of the the Mexican food is because I feel
Logan
like
Square is such there's so many unique places over there. It's such a great neighborhood.
Yeah, like the alley that led to our place, like there was like a little stand there, like pretty close by, within half a block, and I don't know if I ever stepped foot in there. And I'm just, it's kind of like a regret of mine that I didn't really take advantage of those.
You can still do it. You can still go there.
I can, but a lot of those areas are gentrified now, where I don't know if that place, by us still even exists anymore. Like I don't even remember the name of it, but I just remember it was always by our alley, and like it was just always kind of an afterthought for me because just wasn't like Mexican food wasn't really like on my radar a lot. And now, not now when the wife asks for like food ideas, like she's kind of surprised when I'm the one suggesting like tacos or burritos or something like that. Like, no, I'm not. I don't get like a lot of fancy shit in there, but like the fact that I'm even suggesting Mexican food, like any variant of Mexican food, is kind of like a surprise to me. Like if you would have told me like 5 or 10 years ago that I'd be doing that, like now I'm just kind of regretting that. Like, wow, I was there, I didn't take advantage of that. But like you said, there's still areas that I can go to if I wanted to. It just right now the times aren't like conducive to like going downtown and just like sitting there. Like you'd almost have to like bring it out and
yes,
so
yeah.
that's the part that I don't like right now. And I'm hoping that within a year or so we can kind of go back to that normalcy. But yeah, I that's kind of a regret of mine that I didn't take advantage of that. But I guess things change and palates change and things like that. So um, but life goes on, and I'll get that food eventually.
There you go. That's the
But but that area when I drove by there, it's kind of off Milwaukee Avenue. It's like, yeah, it's completely different now. The last time I drove down there, um, so a lot of these neighborhoods just get so like built up with like high rises and shit like that. So
yeah, it's citywide too. I mean, there are a lot of
yeah.
Places in Lakeview too, which is a pretty established neighborhood that old, these old turn of the century, 1800s and the 1900s buildings are getting torn down for condos, and like I get it, like that's what happens, and I mean aesthetically, I don't like it, but that's that's the way the world is. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right, so you might have seen some of the exchanges that I've done with people outside of our out of our area in terms of like beer and gift packages that I've sent. Have you ever done one of those with like anyone, either like on Twitter or like otherwise, like a beer / like Chicago goodies?
I've done Chicago. I haven't sent beer to anyone. My sister lives in Alaska, so
okay.
Around her birthday every year, I send like a Portillo's like goodie box, or
Okay.
or like Lou Malnati's pizza or Giordano's. Any place that kind of does that, and it's kind of like the chain places that have the ability to send food nationwide. So
Sure.
it's difficult to do that with kind of a more local, like sole proprietorship type restaurant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't sent beer to anyone, but there are, Chicago area's got a lot of great microbreweries, and it's really like an embarrassment of riches at this point, I think.
Yeah, I've always thought, I say always, but like in the past 5 years, I've realized how great it is to live in where we do, because we're centrally located, where we can get a lot of the widely distributed West Coast stuff and also the widely distributed East Coast stuff. So like we get a lot that a lot of the other coasts don't get because of distribution. So like you said, like and that's not even to mention like the breweries that we do have access to, which are amazing. And we went when we hung out 5 years ago. That was I'm trying to remember what brewery did we go to or try to go to, because I
think we went to Half Acre with Birch.
Yeah.
And Not That Tricky, right?
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to remember if it was Half Acre or somewhere else, but I think I left my ID at home, so we couldn't actually sit down there, because that was during the process where I was buying a house, and I had to I was like taking pictures of my ID and I never put it back into my wallet. So like I don't think we were able to, or I wasn't able to sit down. I don't remember what happened, but since then, there's feels like there's breweries opening up everywhere. So like what when you're sending stuff to your sister, you said sister, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In Alaska. Like are you're not sending any beer, but like let's say she was a beer person, what beer would you think you would send to her or somebody else? Like what are your favorites that you like to like promote when you're like
Gotcha. Okay, so
hey,
the breweries I'm like big into now. well, Hop Butcher, which was mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Phase 3. I think they're
Yeah.
in Lake Zurich, northwest suburbs. I haven't had a single beer from them that I don't like. They're just like their General Pilsner is an awesome beer for anyone who is not like a big double IPA, like heavy hops fan. That beer is fantastic. Some other ones, the Dovetail Vienna Lager is um, another non IPA that is easy to drink, great flavor. I pretty much always have that in my fridge. And then one other brewery that I don't actually get that much of. I should get more of is it's called Microphone, Mikeer phone. I think they're out in the northwest suburbs too. And yeah, they do a lot of great stuff. And their beers kind of have like a music theme to them. The one I can think of off the top of my head is Smells Like Bean Spirit. It's like a coffee stout. They have a few other ones too. Bulletproof Cadillac is one of my favorites of theirs. So yeah, and those are kind of the ones that I'm kind of big into at the moment. What about you?
So yeah, I was looking to see if I had one in my fridge of the Microphone though. I've been on a sour kick lately, and I had their beer that was called Took an L, and it's just like it's this fruit I don't it's like it had marshmallow, it had a whole bunch of different fruits in there, and just like a beautiful like color, beautiful pour. Unfortunately, I don't have one that's cold right now, but yeah, I've been on a sour kick. That was one of them. I always try to promote the breweries by me. Whenever I'm doing these exchanges, I'm always trying to give my local breweries around here some love and some financial support, because they're good for the community. The people that I've interacted with at both, especially the one Rabid Brewing that's like about a mile away from me. I try to squeeze like at least 2 cans of theirs into all of my different care packages that I send to people, and they just had a good sour that I tried for the first time last week. So yeah, as far as the ones I feel like I bought the most in the past year, where I think I tagged like Hop Butcher and Maplewood. Maplewood, I bought like a case of that rice, that crispy treats or whatever they called it, the Rice Krispie treat beer that they had. You might have seen that.
That sounds vaguely familiar. I didn't have it, but
yeah, it was in the blue and red can, and yeah, I sent that off to a couple of people. Um, and I feel like that was that and the New Glarus Wisconsin Belgian Red were like the popular ones that I've heard a lot of good feedback on. The Wisconsin Belgian Red's the one I always pimp out to people too whenever they come over. I always, especially non-beer drinkers, like I feel like a lot of them like that type of beer. Although my mom doesn't. She thought it tasted too much like beer, which I don't know. She didn't like it, but
it's a beer though, right?
I don't know. But that's the one I pimp out the most. But in terms of like the breweries, like lately, I feel like I'm buying a lot of like without even like really looking at the even the hops. I'm always buying Hop Butcher, and I feel like I'm buying a lot of Noon Whistle, um, and Maplewood, and I've sent a bunch of those too, and I was trying to see if there was anything that I might have been missing. Like I don't know what are the closest breweries that are to you, anyways. That are you within walking distance of any right now?
Yeah, without giving away my exact location. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You don't. Yeah, but like, so yeah. So there. I mean, the thing is, like, when you live in the city, uh, especially now, it feels like, you'd have to pretty much live like, I don't even know where you could live where you're not within walking distance of a brewery.
Yeah, there's a lot of alcohol in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no shortage of it.
No,
That's for sure.
and yeah, it feels like a recession proof
Price is better during the
business.
session.
Yeah. So one I guess it's not really a problem, but I feel like I don't know how your buying habits are like in the past 11 months that we've been in quarantine, but I feel like I've been buying maybe a little bit more, but like it tends to look like a lot more only because I'm not having people over to share it. Because I realize that I tend to share at least like if I buy a 4-pack, I'm kind of expecting one of them to be chopped with friends like in the backyard. Um, and like I don't have that option anymore. Or we try to be responsible with the wife's pre-existing conditions. We try to avoid people as much as we can. So like we haven't had anybody over here since probably my fantasy football draft in September. So like all this beer just kind of stocks up, and I kind of realized like wait, normally I have like people to share this with, and now I'm just kind of drinking it by myself. So it just sits on the side of the fridge. Have you been having that same problem?
Yeah, my beer purchasing has gone up pretty dramatically. My beer drinking has gone down a
Oh,
lot.
okay.
So when the pandemic first started, I'd have maybe like 1 or 2 beers a night, and now I basically don't drink at all during the week. It's just like dry during the week. But then
Okay.
I'll have like 7 beers on Saturday. So I don't know if that's like the best way to go about it. But yeah, I mean, I'll get the weekly hop culture if it's something I like, and usually they'll have one item. So they come out with like 2 or 3 different beers each week, and
Yeah.
the milkshake IPAs. I'm not a big fan of that style of beer, so I generally won't make a trip to get those.
Sure.
But I'll get the other ones, and I'll have one, and I'll like it, but it's a lot of their beers have a lot of alcohol. They're very heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and it just sort of starts piling up in the fridge. And I'll do beer exchanges with friends of mine, and so I'll trade Hot Butcher, and I'll get a variety of different beers in return. But it's like the beers I buy leave, but then I acquire other ones that I also don't really drink. So the fridge just gets kind of piled up with beer, and occasionally it can be difficult to find room for the food. So
Yeah, I get it. I'm the best thing that happened to me when we moved here was getting my brother's like garage. He got like a new fridge for his garage like the year that we moved into here, and he just basically gave away his fridge. I think it was my brother, um, and like just having a fridge dedicated solely to beer has been especially now has been like as a godsend. And like the thing that's thrown me off though, like I feel like I don't know, I don't think I'm drinking as much, although maybe my wife would disagree, but um but in terms of like the amount of beer, it just seems to like just kind of stockpile, like I said. And I got beer just like sitting on the side of the fridge right now waiting to get put into the fridge. And it's
waiting
not an
for its turn to be cooled.
yeah, yeah, and they're waiting for their call up to the major leagues and go in the fridge, and some of them just have to wait a little bit, but it's just like
You got to put in their time.
yeah. And the problem right now, that's not really a problem, but like my work life now is where I'm, I work different shifts. 6 days on one shift, and then I'm off for 4 days. And my 4 days, might not even be on a weekend. So like, my mindset is still kind of trapped a little bit into the corporate structure of like Monday through Friday. And like, like, oh, I'm drinking like on a Wednesday afternoon, like, but that's what my days off are. So it's
Sure.
like, well, it's different. Cause it's like, even without a pandemic, I would still be like, doing a lot of things by myself with this, these shifts that I'm on. So that's like another hurdle, but I don't really know if it's much of a hurdle. It's just, I'm drinking by my, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm drinking by myself a lot more than I ever anticipated. Um, back in the day, I always thought like, the guy who drank by himself was like a big loser. Maybe that's still true. Maybe I am a big, but I'm maybe it's perfect.
You have an excuse to drink alone now.
Yeah.
We all do it. We all drink
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, and I think even in the summer, I think I went to the outside outside of my local place like a few times, and it's fun. But
not as fun as drinking alone in your basement.
Yeah. So, anyways, what was the last part here? We're I always tend to throw in an Illinois thing here, and I had David Hess on the pod, to start the college basketball season, and he had like some comps about Illinois being in his eyes potentially like like a 1 seed in the tourney, and like now I think they're still ranked in the top 15 if I remember correctly. Are you as a fan, as a former alum like as an alum like myself, are you happy with the progress they've made with Underwood as coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be, considering where they came from, the last few years with Weber, and Gross wasn't really able to do much in his time there. And yeah, Underwood he's a great coach, and I was thrilled when they hired him, mostly because of how highly regarded Underwood is by the various college basketball sharps on gambling Twitter. So I was, just knowing how much those guys love Underwood, I was pretty excited that they hired him. And he's shown to be able to adjust his system. They completely changed the way they played defense last year, and the recruiting has been pretty good. I hope they can kind of keep like stockpiling highly rated recruits, because I think he is a really good coach, and if you have talent and a really good coach, that's a recipe for success. And that's kind of really the only maybe underlying question I have is can he keep getting like the Io DeSunes and Kofi Coburns and Andre Curbellos and Anna Millers of the world, because they're very good players, and he's an excellent coach. So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful for the future. They just extended his contract, which is great. And as for this year's team, they're a very good team. They are very annoying at times with how inconsistent they can play, and they play in the Big Ten, which is the toughest conference, and you got to show up every night, and some nights they don't show up, or they don't show up until later. Losing to Maryland at home is a pretty bad loss. But they bounce back. They beat Iowa, and I don't know. I just how does the season end? I have no idea. I mean, they could go to the Final Four. They have the talents to do it. They also could exit in the second round. So
yeah,
who knows? Who knows? It'll be interesting to watch, though.
Yeah. Okay.
There's one more prop that I just found that kind of made me laugh. I was scrolling through. I don't know how I missed this one earlier.
Okay.
It's a cross-sport prop on Bet Online. It's which will be higher: Jason Pierre-Paul tackles and assists, or Jason Pierre-Paul fingers on right hand, and a 2 in parentheses. The tackles and assists are minus 200. And I'm actually going to bet that. So I'm going to hit that one.
Wait, so
how much are they going to let me do on that? Oh, $100.
So do they factor in could he lose more fingers during the game? Like, is that?
I don't know. I didn't think about it. I should have factored that in. Well, I mean, he's not going to grow more fingers during the game. So that's going to be good.
True. I guess. Point. Like, that's true. I guess there's probably no fireworks he could play with on the sidelines.
Well, presumably so, not. So I just got that one. They let me bet to win 100 on it. So I just bet Pierre-Paul more tackles than fingers on his right hand at -200. Doesn't look like they've changed the line yet. So I'm gonna
that's good stuff.
I'm gonna bet it again.
I'm always interested to see what kind of different props that they can even come up with. By the way, another Hop Butcher beer for you.
Oh yeah, I've got that one. Yeah, the new fall one. Yeah, that one was good. I wouldn't put it in my top tier of them, but it was good.
Yeah. So that's wrapping up the podcast here. We did have a couple of other listener questions. Horse on the Shore was asking about Team Rough versus Team Fluff or Team Fluff. I'm presuming that's a
puppy bowl.
A puppy bowl.
Yeah.
The puppy bowl. And that.
That one. I don't know. You may want to ask Vegas Watch. I think he's the expert on the puppy bowl.
Okay.
If he got thrown out of 5 dimes for that one.
back in the old days,
Yeah, that was a few years ago
when Tony was not missing.
I think they found him. No, unfortunately. But
okay. All right, and the last one, and I probably should have thrown this into the prop section, but conveniently enough, it's from Proppy on Twitter, _ Proppy, and he was asking, do you think any of the U.S. domestic books have sharper prop lines than others?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Circa's props are pretty sharp. They're probably the sharpest. I mean, does he mean? I mean, Circa's only in 2 states. They're in Colorado and Nevada. Did he mean more?
I'm not sure.
Books that are more widespread. Otherwise, I'd say FanDuel's are kind of maybe the least worst. I don't know. I'm so limited on props at a lot of these places that I don't check them very often.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, in general, I'd say probably Circa is the sharpest props. I mean, they also take the biggest bets on the props, so they're presumably talented enough to mold their lines the way they want to reflect that sharp action. So
okay. All right. Actually, and I opened up Twitter here and I see a couple of more questions. And I figured I'd address this while you're still here. So one of them was from SV Better asking how do your derivatives trading help you with your sports betting?
I think just kind of it's a very similar mindset where you are trying to kind of create a position of your opinions in a way that can maximize your return while minimizing your risk. I know it's kind of a blando type answer. They're similar in some ways. They're different in that, if I have a treasury spread on, that thing's moving around, in an active market, and that's a position I need to manage. Whereas, if I just have a few bets on, I can easily quantify, what I have at risk, and I know what my possible gain is going to be. Whereas, in trading, you have an idea generally of how your position moves, but as we saw an example earlier in the podcast with GameStop, right? You do have the potential for these outsized tail events too that you always need to be cognizant of. So, I would just say just kind of the way that I approach sports betting is similar to the way I approach trading, and there are. aspects that I kind of feed off of for both. It's you have to be very disciplined, and there's always somebody who's willing. There's always somebody on the other side who is going to take your money if you have any sort of lapse in judgment. So you kind of always need to be locked in, and to use like a poker term, you can't go on tilt. Like if you make a number of great sports bets and you lose, I mean, it sucks. Sure, like maybe you beat the closing line by a lot, or your model says that these are highly plus EV wagers, and they lose. You can't like go off the rails and try to make the money back by just firing bets off willy-nilly to try to get it back. In trading, that can happen too, where you have a position on, goes against you, keeps going against you, keeps going. It's just like this. The frustration level builds, and get angry. You start trading angry, and like you can't take your trading personal. You can't take your betting personal. You can't take your gambling. You cannot take it personally. You need to always be locked in, and a lot of it is just a mental struggle against yourself sometimes. So especially in trading, sports betting, you can. I've done a very good job of mitigating that, because if I don't see the price that I want for a bet, then I'm not touching it. I'm leaving it alone, and that removes a lot of the emotion. And trading with emotion it can be a dangerous thing. Removing emotions from your trading is incredibly valuable, and if you're very good at doing that, then you're going to have a lot of success.
Okay. And the last question here comes from Mr_C_123, asking about the most value game prop, and then a prop offering that you think is the most creative / fun despite value. Like I don't know if any of the ones they've already discussed fall into either of those categories.
Yeah, I mean the Pierre Paul ones is really hilarious. That one and the one mentioned earlier. Let's see, what's most value game prop offering you think is most creative, fun despite. Okay, so he's asking, he wants one with value and one that's most creative. Okay, so those two are the most creative. I guess he's not necessarily asking for a novelty prop, a game prop.
Yeah.
So one that I've seen that may have some value is team to score first. So most teams, elect to defer when they win the coin toss, and that's been pretty consistent now for a few years. But occasionally, Bruce Arians will take the ball first when he wins, and there were a few games this season where he did that. Now, that's not to say that he's going to do it in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, maybe you play more by the book, and if you win the toss, you defer. But I think we can be pretty reasonably confident that Andy Reid's going to defer if the Chiefs win the toss. So I've seen Bucks to score first, like +115, +120. I don't know if those are still out there. I did see a +110 earlier today. I think that one's okay. So and that's kind of a play on them receiving the ball first. If there's equal likelihood of both teams deferring, which I don't think there is, but I don't think it's like set in stone that the Bucks are for sure receiving the opening kickoff. That's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Then I would not play that. But given there is some uncertainty over the likelihood of the Bucks getting the ball first, I think it like plus 110 or better. That's not too bad of a play, especially if it's better than plus 110. So that's kind of a game prop that I think still exists. I did just see it a few hours ago, plus 110. So it might be better at other shops. So
okay. Yeah, I think that wraps up. Let's see. Let me just double check. Yeah, that's the extent of the questions here. So, any final thoughts before we close this out?
Not really. Looking forward to the game. Super Bowl is always fun, and not looking forward to having to grade this massive mountain of props. That would probably take me many hours, but that's the way it is.
Now, do you have these like in a like a spreadsheet or like something automated that like makes it easier for you to track?
I have them in a spreadsheet. I do not have it automated, although I feel like that would be a nice addition to my operations. Save me a lot of time.
Yeah, I feel like tracking that down is probably like, almost a bigger hassle than making the bets themselves.
Yeah, I don't have to drive to Indiana to grade the bets, so that's one positive.
Okay. Yeah, well, enjoy the game. I'm gonna be working during it. Unfortunately, I'm working.
That sucks.
I start second shift work on Sunday, so I've been doing a NFL beer playoff beer project and like a project, because I need more drink reasons to drink. And the last beer that I have to drink is a sour from Boulevard, like in a not a bomber. It's like whatever the 750 milliliter bottles are called. I don't think those are called bombers, but yeah, it's like a sour from Boulevard that I couldn't find a symbol. I couldn't find anything from Tampa that fit that bill, but so I'm gonna be enjoying that like either tonight or tomorrow, probably with my wife. I know she likes sours too, so that's I'm just gonna enjoy it. The drinking aspect beforehand, and then hopefully it's not too busy where I can watch it on my other screen.
So you show up to work drunk and not have to
that's not gonna happen. Yeah. I should have tried to exchange days, but whatever. I could just watch it on my other screen here. Hopefully nobody calls, but all right. Well,
it's a Super Bowl. Everyone's going to be busy watching the game, so
I hope so. Yeah, even we have some international clients too. So like, I don't know if people in Canada or Mexico even care about it, but I'm sure they do. Some of them do. So, all right. So, anyways, Muck, thanks for joining the podcast once again, and good luck with your betting. And I'm hoping that we can enjoy some beers together in the next year or so. When
that'd be nice. Hopefully this summer we can get out to Sheffield's or something again. That was fun a few years ago.
Yeah,
so
for sure. All right.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian.
Yeah, no problem. And everyone, thanks for listening, and good luck with your bets. And I'll talk to you soon.